I beg to move that this House has considered Pryzm nightclub and the nighttime economy in Hertfordshire. It is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I'm delighted to bring this debate to Westminster. Mr Hollowbone, the situation in Watford is a very worrying one. We have been hit over, as everyone else has, over the times of the pandemic, of the high streets being in challenging times. And Watford's got one of the best high streets in the country. We have an incredible wealth of brilliant stores and brilliant organisations and brilliant small businesses that we need to continue to support. And what I found over the past few years, and especially my time as a Member of Parliament in Watford, is just how much our community works together, comes together and supports each other. And that includes supporting our small businesses as we move forward. But we have a challenge. And the challenge is that one of our most popular nighttime destinations, Pryzm nightclub, is under threat. It has a situation at the moment where there's a planning application in place to turn the nightclub and surrounding businesses into homes. Now, I'm not against new homes. I think it's important we have them. I'm not too keen on very tall towers, which is a totally different debate that I'm sure we can have another time. But what we do have is a situation where if that nightclub closes, especially when it's already doing well, wouldn't be closure because the people aren't going through the door. It would be closing merely because of the landlord wanting to change it to something else. To something that isn't part of the nighttime economy. Now, the reason why that's a challenge is that the nighttime economy, as we will all know, is not just one place. It's not one nightclub. It's in a whole ecosystem. And it's an incredible ecosystem of everyone from local restaurants, local bars, local food outlets, takeaway places, as well as our brilliant taxi trade, who all rely on the thousands of people that come into Watford every weekend to go to the nightclub. The problem with closure of the nightclub is that that will pull the rug from under those businesses. Those hard-working people who've, over the past 2-3 years, have really struggled to get through COVID. They've come through the other side. They've survived it. And they're about to be on the verge of thriving, and then it will be cut off from underneath them. So my request to the ministers today, and I have a few points I'd like to raise, are just about how can we support the nighttime economy in general. I appreciate within these debates, these are national debates, but I think Pryzm is a really good example which highlights the challenges we face as a community, as a government supporting small business, where if we don't continue to make sure we have places like nightclubs where we have the nighttime economy thriving, then we risk having a whole domino effect of closures, of high streets not surviving, but also impacting tourism, trade, and also opportunity. At this point, I would like to just make a few thank yous, if I may. First of all, I want to thank Maria Mannion. She is the Chief Executive at Watford Business Improvement District, or the BID, as it's often known. They've done incredible work looking at the impact of closure and what that would mean locally, but also do incredible work to support local businesses. I'd also like to thank Dave Vickery. Dave's actually the manager at Pryzm Watford. I've been down there a few times. I can confirm I haven't danced or drank. But when I've met Dave, Dave is absolutely passionate, and you can tell the care that they have for the people who go to the nightclub, the fact that they make sure that they're safe, make sure they have a safe evening out, an enjoyable evening out, but also when they go back onto the street at the end of the night, that they're continuing to have a safe journey home, they continue to have a safe environment to go to the other businesses locally. He's the manager there, and I think what I've heard from him is that actually places like nightclubs are communities. They're places where people go to see their friends at the end of each week, to start to relax, to use one of the things that I'm very passionate about is helping their own mental well-being. It's a release each week, and I think when we lose that, it has a really damaging effect on not just the economy, but actually on people. Pryzm nightclub, for anyone watching this, from Hertfordshire especially, who may be, I'm sure, in their millions tuning into this Westminster Hall debate, will probably know that the nightclub's also been known as Oceana, Destiny, Paradise Lost, Bailey's, many others actually, and it's been on the parade for nearly 40 years. So this isn't just something that's popped up. It's been part of the legacy there. And I can say, hopefully I'm not preaching a confidence, but there are even people who work in Parliament who've met their partners there. So it has a legacy of relationships, of friendships, forging those over many, many years. And it's an opportunity for people to come together and celebrate after what can often be a hard week at work. And again, it's another release and opportunity. One of the things that people may not be so aware of, though, is that they also do incredible work for local charities. One of those is Watford MenCap. So when I visited there just recently, I met the team from Watford MenCap, and they have about 70 people, or clients as they refer to those who go there with the MenCap team, who go and have a safe night out every Friday. I think it's the last Friday of every month. They go there, they have a safe environment, they can have a drink if they want, they know that they're going to see friends that they wouldn't normally do. If Pryzm closes, there's nothing else that they could do that's even close to similar to that for them to be able to continue enjoying that safe space, but also that community space to build upon. But I also want to talk about the impact on jobs, and this is something I really would like to raise with the Minister about the nighttime economy, and especially about Pryzm. So Pryzm has about 110 employees, average of 3,000 visitors across Friday and Saturday, and on some nights where they have a big DJ or other types of big events, they can have even more than that. I mean, it can be even many thousands more. And they have about 500 people on a Monday. So it's absolutely critical, because each one of those people that comes in will spend money, not just at Pryzm, but in the local area. And I'm particularly concerned for the taxi companies, because a lot of the taxi firms, especially during lockdown, had a really difficult time. You know, they were the ones who were really struggling for every single fare, sometimes waiting for hours until they could actually get the next pickup that they could go and drive and then join the back of the queue. I think stopping their ability to earn overnight from the nighttime economy is a real travesty. And I believe the average spend in Pryzm is about £20, but it would equate to about £34 to our local economy, just for visitors coming in per person. I want to be clear, though, as I say, this isn't just about Watford. I wouldn't be so selfish as to focus it just on Watford. But when we look at the broader impact that nightclubs and nighttime economy has in towns across the entirety of the UK, if we lose that, we're not just losing the economic benefits, but we're losing part of our culture. You know, pubs are absolutely critical to what we think of when we think about Britain. You know, I don't think there's a single soap on TV that doesn't have a pub in it. But actually, most have a nightclub as well, in terms of, not on TV, but most towns in the past used to have a nightclub. They used to have some space, or a disco, perhaps, for my generation, that they could go to. And that's dying out. And there's a real challenge there, because, you know, I'm not going to go into a Saturday night fever mode and start dancing, but I do think there's a real reason why they existed for so long, because actually they drive so much opportunity for people, and it does forge relationships, as I mentioned earlier. I'll just check the time. Let's put my glasses back on that I'm not overrunning. Apologies if I did. I also want to highlight, though, another part which I'm really passionate about, which is the creative arts. You know, the amount of people that get to have their first start at nightclubs, you know, at nighttime bars as well, where music can happen. You know, the amount of bands that have started by doing gigs at small towns and built up their following to then potentially tour around the world is incredible. And everyone wants that first step on the ladder. And when it comes to creativity, having an audience within your own town or within the surrounding area to listen to you, to support you, to fund you, can make a massive difference. So again, I think losing nightclubs and impacting the nighttime economy in this way has a massive risk for what we might look at in the future. And I'll just add that in terms of the music industry, it's estimated that there were almost 1 million music tourists in the southeast prior to COVID, and actually that supported 5,300 jobs in the southeast alone. I mean, it's a huge amount, and it goes to the heart of really why I'm so concerned. I think when we look more broadly as well, and I'll start to wrap up because I'm conscious of votes, but I would just like to ask a few questions to the Minister. One, and I think the top of mind, is is there anything I can do to encourage both the Council, who I totally understand have to follow very specific processes to agree or decline or refuse planning applications, so this isn't about trying to force them in, But I think if we can look at, is there a way that I can help them know what could be used to refuse the planning application, if I can help them before that point? Is there anything I can do to speak to the businesses? Are there any support packages? Are there any other things that could be used to help them, to encourage them to not close this vital part of our community? But also, could I also ask the Minister if she, and I should say actually the Minister I know is new to her post and is doing an absolutely incredible job so far, and I look forward to seeing her in post for a much longer time. I would just like to say, could I find out what also the government is doing to support the nighttime economy and how we can build from there? So I think the three things: what can I do, what is being done, and how is the government supporting the nighttime economy in the future, the creative industries, and most importantly, small businesses. So I will leave it there. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to the Minister.
The question is that this House has considered Pryzm nightclub and the nighttime economy in Hertfordshire. The debate can last until 4:30. Minister.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr Hollyburn. It's a pleasure to stand before you for my first Westminster Hall debate, sir. It is also a pleasure to be here to congratulate my honourable friend and member for Watford for securing today's important debate. And clearly this is an important issue for my honourable friend and his constituents, but I ought to say he does an excellent job for Watford. None of his colleagues can say that they don't know anything about Watford, because he's constantly going on about Watford, and good for you too. Much appreciated, I'm sure. So I do recognise that this is a local commercial and planning matter, and providing new homes to ease pressure on the housing market is obviously important. But it's also important to preserve commercial areas which are fundamental to the health of local economies and communities. Hospitality, alongside retail and personal care and leisure, is part of an ecosystem, just as the Honourable Member said, that underpins healthy local economies and communities. This ecosystem includes a symbiotic relationship between those businesses operating during the day and evening and those businesses operating into the night. And certainly I've talked to the department about daytime economy, nighttime economy, but also that twilight economy as well, and the connection between the two. And I'm sure that's where much of that £34 is being spent, as you know, before they go on into the nightclub. The ecosystem includes, I've said that. If the nighttime economy fails, it has a detrimental impact on the ecosystem as a whole. As well as providing accessible jobs and stimulating local supply chains, hospitality businesses support tourism, help attract inward investment, generate income for local authorities to invest in services and infrastructure, connect communities and support mental health, just as my honourable friend said. All of that helps improve living standards and creates desirable places for people to visit, study, live and work. While increasing the number of residents living in our town and city centres is a good thing for local economies, businesses and residents need to be able to coexist. But we know from experience that residential areas and nighttime economy businesses do not necessarily coexist well. We have seen many cases of long-standing businesses being forced to close under the weight of complaints about noise from new residents. To ensure a healthy business environment that will deliver for local economies and communities, this ecosystem needs to be managed, and it needs to support and complement wider plans from economic development, regeneration and levelling up. And it's important to talk about levelling up, because people think about levelling up as being somewhere else other than the South East, and in fact it's absolutely just as applicable to Watford as it is to Loughborough and any other town in the country. Levelling up for most parts of the country will involve improving productivity and economic growth by encouraging innovation, creating good jobs, enhancing educational attainment and renovating the social and cultural fabric of those parts of the UK falling behind. Investing in education, digital connectivity, housing and transport to attract new business investment, as well as attracting and retaining talent, is a key part of levelling up. Increasing the number of overseas tourists visiting the UK and achieving a better distribution of tourism across the UK is also an important part of levelling up. And in 2019, 40.9 million overseas residents visited the UK, spending around £28.4 billion, of those staying at least one night, 21.7 million visited London, while 2.2 million people visited Edinburgh, 1.6 million Manchester, and 1.1 million Birmingham. So just as my right honourable friend said, this is about Watford specifically, but it's also about the nighttime economy across the whole of the country. So creating the right environment for high street businesses to flourish is vital to creating destinations that will appeal to entrepreneurs, students and tourists alike. Research by Centre for Cities into healthy local ecosystems for students and graduates highlights the importance of attracting new students to bolster local economies, as students tend to spend their money where they study. The ability of a place to attract students from other parts of the country will therefore affect the strength of its economy, and I think nighttime economy would definitely attract the student population. Moreover, as the UK continues to specialise in more highly skilled, knowledge-intensive activities, the extent to which cities can attract and retain skilled graduates will have a bigger impact on their economic performance. In terms of hospitality, as constituency MPs, we know that hospitality, including nightclubs, is important, and clearly that's why my honourable friend has brought this matter to the House today. Nationally, hospitality employs 2.4 million people, and there are 167,000 hospitality businesses, creating £83 billion in revenue in 2021.
Would my right honourable friend give way?
Of course.
Thank you. On the point of hospitality, if I may, given I have a private member's bill on Friday for my tips bill, I just wanted to give a plug to point out the importance of the hospitality sector, but also the importance that staff can keep the tips that are given to them, and I hope the Minister will choose to agree with me that on Friday when she's at the dispatch box.
Thank you very much. So, my honourable friend, I welcome the introduction of your private member's bill. I absolutely do. Ensuring tips go to workers is the right thing to do, and a policy by my department has worked hard on, and I look forward to responding to you on Friday on that matter. So we're working to make permanent many of the regulatory easements we introduced during the pandemic that not only provided hospitality businesses with greater flexibility to trade, but also helped create the vibrant, bustling outdoor spaces we need to encourage people back into our town and city centres. In July last year, we published the first ever hospitality strategy, which I have about my person, here we are, which set out our ambition for the recovery and future resilience of the sector, and we have established a Hospitality Sector Council to oversee its delivery. We did all of this because we recognise the importance of hospitality, not just nationally, but locally. If we are to maximise the potential of hospitality to support our local economies and communities, to stimulate inward investment and tourism, and to help levelling up across the country, then we need to cultivate and nurture our local high street ecosystems. So we've talked about those things. As I say, the planning mechanisms are the way forward, I believe, and that's unfortunately not with Bays but with DLUC. However, they are bringing forward, I understand, within DLUC, planning matters that could be dealt with through the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill, which might include also an auction after a year if a building remained empty. Whether that would happen in this case, I'm not sure, if I'm honest with you, but it's still worth bearing in mind and for colleagues across the country. So I would like to congratulate my honourable friend again for securing today's important debate and providing an opportunity to discuss it in Parliament. While this is very much, as I say, a local planning issue, it raises important questions about how we manage the transition of our high streets from being fundamentally retail centres to more experiential spaces where we meet the needs of local residents and attract new footfall. I believe that this can be best achieved by local authorities, in this particular case working closely together with local delivery partners, and clearly you have done with the bid, and interested groups, businesses and landlords. But I thank you very much indeed for bringing this matter forward. Thank you.
I congratulate the honourable member for Watford for securing the debate and congratulate the Minister on her debut performance. The question is that this House has considered Pryzm nightclub and the nighttime economy in Hertfordshire. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. If the contrary no, I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order.